Hi, I'm Kendra Corman. If you're a coach, consultant, or marketer, you know marketing is far from a perfect science. And that's why this show is called Imperfect Marketing. Join me and my guests as we explore how to grow your business with marketing tips and, of course, lessons learned along the way. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Imperfect Marketing. I'm your host, Kendra Corman, and I'm very excited to be interviewing Ali Raymer from our new studio. So this kicks off our interview episodes that will be hosted now moving forward in The Click, which is the digital marketing studio presented by Chief Financial Credit Union at Rochester Christian University. Thank you so much for joining me today, Ali. I'm really excited to have you, especially because we're going to be talking about something that I feel that I talk about all the time, which is that you don't have to be everywhere all the time. So welcome. Thank you so much for joining. I would love to hear more about how did you get into what it is you do and specifically what is it that you do?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Kendra. This is super exciting to get to chat with you today about this. So I am Ali Raymer with Picture This Travel. I'm a senior travel advisor for a boutique agency. I'm going on year 9 of this business and really just working in my own business. And I got started with this business because I used to be a high school English teacher and I was selling travel to high school students who had no money, but I was actually doing a great job of it and selling big trips and taking them all over the world. My husband's aunt kind of tapped me on the shoulder. She owned her own agency and she said, you can sell travel to people with money, right? And I was like, oh, I'd never really thought about that before. And she kind of brought me into the fold, mentored me. And then I just kind of took off from there. I decided to quit my teaching job and do this full time. And I come from, an education background, a journalism background. I do not come from I did not get a marketing degree or anything like that. I feel like all the lessons that I've learned have just been real world over the years. And yeah, I plan people's amazing vacations. I absolutely love what I do. I have a dream job.
So I love to vacation. And I tell people regularly that when I grow up, I want to be a travel agent. So you are my hero. And so I love that we're talking about this. So I do have to ask you, what's the most favorite place that you've been or your most favorite trip that you've planned?
Okay, so I would say my heart is Italy always. And so I end up planning a lot of Italy. It's probably my bread and butter. We've been back many times. We went back last summer. Actually, we're working on trying to buy a home there as well. So Italy definitely has my heart. I know that might be a common answer, basic answer, but it's just the best. The food, the people, everything's amazing there. And I would say favorite trips that I plan, really anything in Europe where people take their time and they're able to have that slower pace. So I do a lot of 3-week, month-long trips for clients. And that's probably my favorite because I know that they're going to get that lived-in experience. And I know not everybody can afford that time away, but when people do, it's such a rewarding experience to get to plan that for them.
Oh, that's so much fun. Thank you so much for sharing that. I do love Tuscany. So I've been there and I love it. And that is one place I would like to go back. So
yes,
that's awesome.
It calls you back often.
You used to look at things like where should you post, right? And you started to change your perspective and made it to where are my best clients making decisions, which I think is a very interesting way of asking it, right? A lot of people say, where are my best clients? So how did you approach this? How can others take what you've learned and figure out where their best clients are making decisions?
I think for me, this really came after COVID. I was a travel advisor before COVID. I survived that. And then I came out after COVID. The whole business had burned to the ground, really. I was forming up out of the ashes. And so it was a nice experience in a way because I got to really dig into why I'm doing what I'm doing, who am I speaking to, who is going to respond to the message that I'm putting out there, and, the ROI that we're going to get. Because I love social media and these platforms. One, they're free. We can't pass up on that. It's such a great opportunity just to put things out there for free and see that's where people are spending time. So it just makes the most sense for my business with the ROI. But yeah, I think after COVID, I really started to reflect on I can't just be posting for posting's sake. Everything has to have a purpose and a reason. And so I started to think about the type of people who are spending time on each platform and the types of clients that I really enjoyed working with and the people where I was making a good ROI. I think it kind of has to fall under all that. Like, obviously, we love those luxury clients who can spend a lot of money and we can make a good ROI. That's great, but that's not going to be every single client that we interact with. So for me, yeah, it was kind of figuring out where my ideal client's living. So the first decision that I made was Instagram. I mean, I love Instagram personally. I'm so basic and millennial, and I'm not going to try to fight it, okay? I love it. I spend a lot of time there, and things just resonate with me there. Like, I make decisions on Instagram, with my dollars. So I'm like, okay, what am I doing there that I can also kind of reflect in my business for people like me? And that's really where I speak to a lot of those mompreneurs, busy moms who don't have time to make these decisions, but they do want to go spend time with their families on vacation and unplug. So that's like such an easy one for me because I just feel like I'm speaking to other people like myself. And I mean, I enjoy selling to other people like myself. It's fun, it's fun to get to resonate with them and become friends with them as well. So that was kind of step number one, is choosing a lane I felt super comfortable in and just keep on trucking and really refining there and just being super consistent there. I'm not outsourcing that. Don't outsource the things that you enjoy doing and are really resonating with you. And then it was like, okay, where am I going to push myself? For me, it's really been two places. And I sat down and was like, okay, I do not feel comfortable in these two realms, but LinkedIn and YouTube, and both of those were serious stretches for me. But LinkedIn, I thought, this is really where I can connect with industry. I can connect with other BDMs and reps in the travel industry, other travel advisors, and kind of have a different kind of platform there, but also reach people that are just in the business world. I mean, let's be honest, like, people who are on LinkedIn, they're, CEOs all the way down to assistants, and they're all making travel decisions. And then, yeah, YouTube was another one I had to make a little stretch on, but that was actually from some encouragement from some of my boomer clients. They often YouTube things, and they kept telling me, Ali, you should get on YouTube and post some videos. And I was like, maybe I should.
One of the things that you said is that you were making decisions on Instagram with your dollars in your pocketbook. And so people that have similar interests to you are most likely there. And I love how you're branching out. My preferred platform is definitely not Instagram. If anybody has been watching or listening for a long time, you've heard me say that I really don't like Instagram. For whatever reason, I'm hardcore Gen X. So my favorite
You
platform,
have to choose it. Yeah.
my favorite platforms are LinkedIn, TikTok, actually mostly for viewing. And I actually do make buying decisions on TikTok, which is very interesting. I don't purchase on TikTok. I purchase off of TikTok, but the stuff that I see on TikTok actually drives quite a bit of purchase decisions now that I'm actually thinking about it, which is interesting. So I guess my question for you is, okay, so I don't like Instagram. Do I think a lot of my people are there? They are. I know this because they've told me that. How bad is it that I'm not picking it? I mean, I'm there. I just don't interact or engage.
You have to choose your lane, because if you're going to be inconsistent in a platform, to me, then it's like, just don't show up. I mean, honestly, because so many people are inundated with so many images and different things, especially on Instagram with like the algorithm that's constantly changing whatever you're trying to play. But if you're not consistently putting the message out there, people probably aren't going to see it anyways. So I say it's okay. Like, if it doesn't speak to you, I honestly wouldn't try to be consistent there. I would be consistent in the places that we all know ourselves, and we know, okay, I'm going to water that plant. Do you know what I mean? Like, I will be the first to admit I never water plants. My parents literally just got me a fake fern to hang up on my front porch because they know I'm not going to water that plant. So I'm like, if you know yourself well enough to know you're not going to water the plant, just don't even go down that road, because I think that's better than having it outsourced or, it being fake, honestly.
So that's hilarious because actually I do have a big plant and it started to wilt. Yes. a couple days ago. And one of the other faculty members walked into my office and she's like, "Feed me, Seymour." I'm like, "No, it's going to bounce right back because it just needed water." It's a picky plant. It needs just the right amount of water. And if you overwater it, you're done. And if you, yeah. So I told my husband it needs to come home and he's like, "What do you want me to do with it?" I'm like, "I don't know. Take care of it so it doesn't die." Okay. So that was just a funny analogy that you had. And I was like, oh, that's very, very relevant. Resonates on more than just social media for me. So speaking of Instagram and TikTok and LinkedIn and YouTube and Facebook and X and Threads and Blue Sky, and I'm missing somebody in there. Okay.
Blue
Anyway.
Sky. See, that's even new to me. I don't even know what Blue Sky is. Now I have to Google it.
Yeah. I don't know. I've got a client that's on Blue Sky. So it's like, it's like X. So there's all the things, right? There's all the places. And you're saying that don't go into places, right? If you're not going to take care of it and not be engaged and not be you, right? So what are the warning signs that being on too many platforms could be hurting your business?
I think it really is. It's a maintenance thing, you know? Can you I love time blocking personally. I'm a big time blocker. And so every week it's like, okay, let me time block my week because my weeks all look very different. I'm sure like a lot of people that work for themselves, but it's like, okay, am I able to create the time for this weekly or, however you're going to map this out monthly? I know people do different things, but are you going to be able to map it out? And when it comes time, when it is 11 a.m. on a Monday morning, are you going to be kind of rejuvenated and feeling excited? 11 a.m. on Monday morning is my LinkedIn time. And I'm not going to lie, I used to dread it. Okay. And I struggled. And then it's just like working any muscle. You just keep adding it to your calendar. You keep doing it. And now I genuinely love my LinkedIn time. I love sitting down and thinking about how I want to inspire other advisors. And I get to be a certain version of myself there that I don't get to be on Instagram. And something about that is super, rejuvenating and just kind of gives me a little bit of life. So I think test that, don't give up on it too soon, but test that. Look at your schedule, map it out in your calendar, make time for it consistently, and then take a step back and reflect on it and go, do I feel like this is giving me life or do I feel like this is draining me? And this is really not a good return on investment. But I would give it a little bit of time because LinkedIn, it was my struggle for a long time. So it just didn't feel natural to me. And it's like the opposite of Instagram, maybe. So yeah.
How long would you give it? You said don't give up on it too quickly. I usually tell people to test things for 90 days because but is that too long of a test for finding out if it drains you? And like at the end of the quarter, you're just like, I'm done with all the things social?
Yeah, 60 to 90 days. I initially was thinking 6 weeks because 6 weeks doesn't feel like an eternity. 6 weeks is like, okay, 6 Mondays that I'm going to sit down and map this out. I can do 6 Mondays, and I think, you do have to give it a little bit of time because you need to have that traction and you need to be able to go back and reflect on what worked and what didn't work. I remember I made my very first LinkedIn post when Southwest was starting to make all their announcements about changes coming, and it popped off. And I was like, this is going to be great. All of my posts on LinkedIn are going to pop off, And then after that, it was like super stagnant. And you get like no likes, no comments. My husband was on there trying to encourage me, and that was it. And then so you do need like enough data, honestly. And now I feel like I've gotten enough data that I know, okay, things like this are going to pop off. That's why the Southwest, because I kind of made this bold statement about Southwest that was kind of ruffling some feathers, Yeah, I think that you need the data points for sure to be able to go back and look and see what works and what doesn't. So I like 90 days. If you feel like that might be too much for you, like if you're a commitment, you struggle with commitment, maybe just start with 6 weeks and see at the end of 6 weeks where it feeds you. So.
Okay. I think that's great feedback. All right. But inquiring minds want to know, what did you say about Southwest when they were making all those changes?
Well, I have 2 littles and I have a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old and we fly often. So I was thinking in my mind, like, you can't see my children when you're picking your seats. Like you can't see that you've chosen seats next to a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old or in front of or behind a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old. But when we make eye contact at Nashville Airport, you can see I have a 6 and 2-year-old and you can choose to avoid me. Do you know what I mean? And I'm okay with that. That's fine. I actually have great travelers. My 6 and 2-year-old are fabulous travelers. You probably want to travel next to them. They're pretty sweet. But, you want to be able to make that decision live. And I think that's something that Southwest has lost a little. So I think that may have ruffled some feathers, but it's okay.
So we're figuring out, where our target audience, where the people we want more business from make buying decisions, right? That's very important. And I don't know about your thoughts, but I would say business to consumer, business to business, they're very similar platforms because you're being influenced, right, for lack of a better term, wherever you are, whether it's personally or professionally. Do you agree with that? Do you think that they're different platforms if you're selling to businesses versus consumers?
I do work with businesses and I feel like that's easier on some platforms to work with them. But I'll say, I feel like I've made just as many amazing connections with LinkedIn and Instagram, honestly, like B2B or B2C. Like I had an amazing opportunity to travel with Visit Britain, and that was definitely more like obviously the B2B kind of situation. And I don't really think about Instagram in that way. I'm constantly thinking about Instagram being B2C, but that was a huge opportunity that opened up for me because I was consistently posting on Instagram because of the type of clients that I was reaching there. So I think don't be closed-minded about that. I think you can definitely reach people you weren't expecting. I mean, if you would have asked me 6 months ago that YouTube would be a place where I would get a lot of my boomer clients, I just wouldn't have expected that. And maybe that was just me being really, I don't know, just not in tune. But it's really surprised me that I have so many boomer clients that find me on YouTube. And yeah, you just stay open-minded for sure.
Well, and I think that that's an excellent acknowledgement, right? You asked people, right? And they offered, hey, we'd love to see more YouTube content. That research, that conversation makes a huge difference. And I think that there's a lot there. So, asking people where they're at too doesn't hurt.
It doesn't. No, it doesn't, especially if they're already your existing clientele, so they've already chosen you, they're already spending their dollars with you, and then they're going to certain platforms to kind of get that reassurance, but they're thinking, gosh, it would be nice if you were on that platform to create that reassurance for people. And having your existing clients, I'm like, especially the ones you love, like, let's be honest, like, I just want to copy and paste some of these clients that I have that are great, and if they're the ones, those are the people we should be talking to. Hey, where are you? Why did you decide to reach out to me? Why did you, choose me from this platform or whatever? Having those conversations with the copy paste clients are crucial because I want more like you for sure, and repel people away that I don't want. That's just as important.
So we've done the research. We've picked the platform, our primary platform, which for me is not Instagram. But what system do you recommend that they build so that their marketing is driving revenue, not taking over their day?
Yeah, I think it's really easy to kind of get caught in scrolling or looking at what other people are doing. I think that's important to an extent, but I do think, again, I love time blocking. I think put a limit on that. So it's important to see what are other people doing in this industry, or again, where am I spending, making my spending dollars, and kind of saying, what are they doing that worked for me? But I would definitely put a limit on that, like the consuming side of it. And then from there, just really thinking about, it goes back to basics, but like thinking about your audience and their pain points and constantly taking your story and making it solve their pain points. Like we all have a story to tell, and being able to share your story in a way that reaches their pain points. Like that's just like the magic, and it's so basic, but I think that that's super crucial. And again, if you're choosing a platform, let's say you just start with one, like maybe these things overwhelm you completely, then just choose one and lean into that and get into a rhythm of that to where it just becomes second nature. And then once you've done that for 6 months, a year even, okay, that's when you start to add in. I was on Instagram for my business for years. I was doing it not well for many years, but for the last few years, I've really honed in. And now I I don't know, I get ideas all the time and I will just, I have like a little system where I text myself. It's really silly, but you might be anywhere and you get an idea, especially for Instagram, because it's just kind of off the cuff a lot of times. And I will just text myself. So I constantly have, weeks of ideas that I've just texted myself. And I think a big part of that is I try to limit the consuming as well, because I think that just turns into a comparison game and trying to do all the trendy stuff. That's probably like the stuff you hate about Instagram. But yeah, I think that's important. And that's kind of how I started to expand in like my other platforms, is not trying to do them all at once, but just try to get really good at one and get that rhythm. And then we can start to add another one in. And, and you just start to spin the plates a little bit easier, and knowing when to outsource. Like Pinterest for me, I love consuming Pinterest. I think it's so fun. But Pinterest is one of those you can like batch, and like I can like hire a VA for that, and they can come in and look at all my content and blogs, and they can do that. It doesn't have to be straight from me. So I think thinking about how you can outsource things and batch content too, there are some of these platforms you can definitely do that with.
Very cool. I love batching. So I think the key takeaway here is you do not have to be all the places. You shouldn't be all the places, because it's going to drain you and kill you, and you will be done. So definitely take a look and see where people are making decisions, the ones that you want more of, right? Because you want to attract more of them, and then create a system that works for you. And I'm a huge fan of time blocking and batching. So you've won me over with that. Before I let you go, I do want to wrap up and ask you the question that I ask all of my guests. And that is that the show is called Imperfect Marketing because marketing is anything but a perfect science. What has been your biggest marketing lesson learned?
It was right after COVID, and we were traveling. We were going on FAMs. FAMs are like familiarization trips. And a lot of companies and countries, honestly, tourism boards, they were wanting travel agents to travel, get out there, show people it's safe. We had to do the testing and all that kind of stuff, but it's safe and we're going. And so we got invited by a company to go to Cabo. I just had never been to Cabo. It just wasn't something that was on my radar. This was so fun. And I remember while I was there was a big fish in our town, and she is very influential, has way more followers than myself on Instagram. We kind of had some overlap, and I thought, gosh, I want to get her business. And she was looking at the time for a travel advisor for a Cabo trip. And I was like, this is perfect. Like, I'm here, I'm posting, like, this is great. And I remember reaching out to a couple connections that we had and kind of putting my feelers out there with her. And she ended up going with someone else. And I remember thinking, I want to create a marketing platform, a vision, that is going to attract that client. Like, I want to win her. Even though she said no to me this time, I really want to win her or people like her. And so I really just had to get honest with myself and look at, why did she not choose me? What marketing mistakes am I making that would have made us not align? And that's when I remember going home and just like deep diving and really rebranding and refreshing everything and aligning myself with people like her, so that maybe in the future she would choose me. And the coolest part of this is maybe like a year later, her assistant called me and wanted me to book their family's Europe trip. And I was like, okay, that doesn't always happen, but it's such a neat thing when you are like, I want to speak to people like this. And then those people end up calling you. And that took a while. It took a while to refresh that and really stick true to that branding and messaging. But I think sometimes your biggest no's are just, I'm always the person that gets inspired by that. I'm like, oh, I'm going to show them, that's my personality. I think that was a huge marketing lesson for myself, just staying humble and being okay with refreshing things and sending out a new branding and marketing to reach the people you want to reach.
Well, and I love how you took it as a challenge. You didn't just give up and say, oh, I guess I'm just not the right fit, right? And you're like, nope, I can do this. This is what I want, and I'm going to go after and get it. And so I think that is just so exciting and so fantastic. Thank you so much for joining me today, Ali. I really appreciate it. I appreciate all that you've shared. You have my dream job, which is to be a travel agent. And you get to travel, which is amazing. So I love it. And thank you so much for sharing all of the lessons that you've learned. I am confident that other people, including myself, have gotten something out of it. If you have, wherever you're listening or watching, it would really help us out if you would rate and subscribe wherever you're listening or watching. Until next time, have a great rest of your day.